Hello everyone. We're trying out something a little different here.
Yeah.
We're gonna try our hand at kind of a quasi-podcast type thing.
Mm-hmm.
The topic of today is Labyrinth.
Woo!
Because we just got done with the Labyrinth LP, and I kind of wanted to talk about the movie a bit more, and so, yeah, here we are.
Yeah. So why don't you tell everyone how much you love this movie?
Genghis is laughing at me because I'm wearing one of 4 Labyrinth shirt that I own. We've got a Jareth doll staring us down on my desk here, and basically we're surrounded by other Labyrinth fun merchandise in my room.
Yep.
I mean, I guess I'll kind of start with when I first kind of got into the movie, maybe.
Yeah, go for it.
So I actually saw this back in the day on VHS at my babysitter's, and I just have this early memory of this movie that's actually scared the shit out of me.
Really?
Yeah, there's a scene in Labyrinth where Sarah is going through the labyrinth and she takes out lipstick and she marks arrows to show where she's going.
Yeah.
For some reason in my memory, I pictured her like it was raining, like it was lightning and storming while this was happening, and she was also crying.
Oh.
And so for years and years, I just had this memory of this movie that freaked me out, and it wasn't until I was in high school that there's a site that I used to go to called Retro Junk, and it would just post like openings to different old cartoons and stuff. This was like kind of like when YouTube was either non-existent or in its infancy.
Okay, yeah.
So like, having all these trailers and stuff were a big deal, and somehow I randomly came across the movie trailer for Labyrinth.
Okay.
And so I watched it, and I was like, shit, this is the movie that I saw.
Oh my gosh.
So I picked up the DVD somewhere, and I watched it, and, I mean, first off, not scary in the least. The scene that I imagined where Sarah's marking the lipstick, it comes when Jareth is singing the Magic Dance song.
Yeah, which is a great song.
Yeah, and it's so upbeat, and it's so fun, so I don't know what the hell I was so afraid of.
Children are weird like that, though.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I watched the movie and basically became instantly obsessed.
Mm-hmm.
And, that kind of started it there.
And see, I hadn't even seen the movie until I think last year.
Yeah.
When Shaw basically was like, "No, you're gonna watch this."
Well, it was actually I think after David Bowie died.
Mm-hmm, I think so.
We had been talking for a while about wanting to do a double feature with some friends with Labyrinth and Dark Crystal.
Mm-hmm.
And so finally, David Bowie passed away, and it was finally like, well, no, shit, we need to sit down and watch Labyrinth. So, watch it at your house. And it's funny, because it's one of those things where I would never, like, not be your friend because you don't like the same movie as me.
But it would break your little heart.
It would, my cold, shriveled heart, if you didn't like Labyrinth as much as I did.
But I really do like it. I don't know if it's possible to like it as much as you do. I don't know if I can develop that level of passion about anything.
Passion or obsession? I don't know.
Tough to say.
I don't do anything by halves.
But I think it's a really cute, enjoyable movie.
Yeah.
I really, really liked it. Incidentally, the Dark Crystal...
Oh, Jesus.
Not as good.
Technically, the Dark Crystal, I think, surpasses Labyrinth. Like, just the design, the scope of the world. Like, there's no denying the amount of world building that went into the Dark
artistry,
Crystal.
for sure.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But plot-wise... Oh.
The highlight of Dark Crystal was anytime the Skeksis, the Chamberlain, came on screen.
Yeah.
And it's the best thing ever. It could probably be a drinking game. He comes on screen and you just hear the...
and for months we've just been doing this noise.
Yeah, every so often we still whip it out.
Yeah, just...
It's the best thing. I was so excited.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Whenever I saw his face on screen, I was here it comes.
But yeah, with the Dark Crystal, I wanted to like it.
Yeah.
I really wanted to, but it just...
Yeah. I appreciate it for the work that Jim Henson and Brian Froud did, but I don't love it as much as I love Labyrinth.
Yeah.
Labyrinth, to me, is just, it's a very, like, it's a feel-good movie.
It is.
You know? And yet there's still, like, there's some peril to it, and there is also, there's some interesting messages about being a young woman and having to grow up and kind of confronting the stuff that comes with growing up. I mean, there's always kind of the bit, you know, David Bowie, of course, a beautiful man in very tight pants.
Yeah.
And it's, I mean, of course, it's meant to be this, you know, like this kind of burgeoning sexuality and having to be a young girl and dealing with this attractive man promising you the world, and yet you know his intentions aren't so innocent. And kind of having to deal with that. Yeah, and then there's also poop jokes.
Oh, of course.
Farts.
Well, you know, you need something for everybody, you know. But no, I mean, I think it's really interesting just how well it does address Sarah's adolescence and just the awkward transition that means for girls.
Yeah.
As they become women.
The awkward and often bumpy transition when you do kind of learn, oh, like that, you know, this guy is just trying to sell me the world, you know.
And doesn't have my best interest in mind.
Yeah.
And stole my baby brother.
Yeah, and stole my baby, yeah.
Who hasn't had that happen?
I mean, everyone.
Yeah.
If you,
really?
If you think that you don't have a baby brother...
It's because it was, you didn't beat the labyrinth.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Good job.
Jareth is an interesting character to me, because I think, he could probably have been very creepy.
Yeah.
But because David Bowie is...
so charming.
Yeah. Even though he's doing these kind of skeevy things...
he comes across more roguish than anything else. He does... I mean, he's a threat, but he doesn't come across as, like, a scary threat.
Yeah. Like, you know that he could do harm, but you also kind of feel like he's sort of just dicking around.
Yeah.
Like, it's not... for a long time in the movie, he doesn't seem to think Sarah is a credible threat.
Yeah.
And you kind of slowly see him realize it, where, you know, he kind of comments, like, she should not have gotten this far. Like,
oh, dang it, didn't take this seriously enough.
Yeah, I always like the bit, where Sarah is making her way into the Goblin City, and so you cut to Jareth on his throne with Toby, and the one guard guy comes in, and he's like, oh shit, she's here, and, like, you see Jareth, he's just so nonchalant, like, you know, whatever, going about my day, because he thinks that he's won. He gave her the peach. He thinks that's it. And then this guard comes in and tells him, no, she's here. And Jareth is like, fuck. Yeah. And he, like, you know, he doesn't lose his composure, but you could tell he's like, he was not expecting this.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think one line that really stands out to me for Jareth is when he talks about how well he fulfilled the role that Sarah gave to him.
Yeah.
And that's very interesting to me, because it was kind of that, he was given a role as this dangerous but safe sort of exploration of threat and consequence. And
well, and it's also interesting from the perspective of him trying to manipulate her too, because he's trying to sort of spin it around, like, I only did what you wanted me to do, you know, kind of thing. And it's just, I really, you know, because there is kind of the romantic aspect to Labyrinth that a lot of people like, is that, you know, you see, of course, there's all the fan art that has Jareth and Sarah together. I think it's an interesting movie to watch as both a young teen and also an adult. Because you kind of get the different perspectives where, you know, it's, I mean, I'm not saying that as an adult I don't see there's some kind of romance. It's also, I mean, you look back and you're like, she's like 15.
He's like immortal?
Yeah, he's older.
Yeah.
But I kind of personally, I like the interpretation that, I mean, even when he's trying to sweet talk her, even when he's trying to play up that, you know, just let's have this romantic dance and, you know, let me tell you all the things I could do for you. I kind of subscribe to maybe the idea that he's not really in love with her.
No.
He's just telling her what he thinks she wants to hear, because he just doesn't want to lose.
Yeah. I would agree with that. I don't, and I mean, keep in mind, I've only seen the movie as an adult.
Yeah.
So I really did not go in with the attitude that this man was anything but not ill-intentioned. Well, no, ill-intentioned.
Yeah.
Ill-intentioned. Because, you know, when you're an adult, especially having being a teen girl, you know how young girls can misinterpret things as being more or less dangerous than they actually are.
Yeah. I think it's easy to kind of get in over your head. Even just, I mean, branching it out, not just like teenage girls, but just like teenagers in general, you don't really have that capacity to like think ahead.
Yeah.
You don't have the best judgment when you're a teen.
Mm-hmm. Very much so. Very much so.
I will say though, in the Labyrinth novelization, they do kind of maybe suggest that it is romantic. Jareth at one point kind of, like, he sees Sarah and he kind of, like, he thinks to himself, like, if only she were a few years older. Because he is interested in a queen, and I mentioned this in the LP, but he's kind of, at one point, he's sort of bemoaning his age. Because even though he's seemingly immortal, he apparently is still aging.
Ah, okay.
And that, of course, a lot of people, that kind of brings into the whole thing with Toby, which I think was kind of, I like the interpretation that a lot of people go with there, is that Jareth wants Toby as an heir. Because, of course, in the movie, it's sort of, they say you have 13 hours in which to solve the labyrinth before your baby brother becomes one of us.
Yeah.
Probably meeting a goblin forever. But you kind of see that Jareth kind of takes a liking to Toby, and he sort of seems to start treating him a little special. He says, he has my eyes, I think I'll call him Jareth. And it's like this cute, I don't know, like he wants an heir, and I think, again, that's part of the charm.
Yeah.
Is that you start kind of liking him.
Well, he's not a one-dimensional villain.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, yes, he did something terrible, but he still has qualities that make him come across as likable.
Yeah. He, and it's, I think part of it, too, is that because Sarah does need to grow up, the fact that he's kind of trying to spur her to do so, you kind of appreciate that for him. Of course, again, he's doing it kind of in a terrible way.
Yes. Question here. Would you say that Labyrinth was a movie designed with teenage girls in mind?
I think I would say so. Because so last year came out it's the Labyrinth, the Ultimate Visual History, I believe is the title, and it's this book that just, it's for the 30th anniversary that talks about the development of the film. Very early on, they kind of hit upon wanting a female protagonist. Like, originally they wanted to do, like, more of a period piece. I think the character of Sarah was going to be, like, kind of a scullery maid. She was going to be a princess. She was going to be, an assistant to a baby prince.
Interesting.
So it always, aside from, like, very early versions of the story, it always had a female protagonist. So I do think they wanted to I do think they kind of wanted that angle to it.
Yeah. Do you think that makes it kind of unique? I feel like, I mean, of course there is media out there aimed at teenage girls, but I feel like it's not...
How many, like, fantasies films are aimed towards them?
A lot of the time you get fantasy, it does tend to be more designed with a typically male viewership in mind. And I believe, isn't it, that males from the age range of, like, 18 to 30 are the most sought after demographic?
Oh, okay.
I could be wrong. I'm probably getting the stuff wrong. But,
yeah, I'm not 100% on that. So, I'm not really sure how to weigh in on that. Like, I do think, I guess kind of sort of going off on a tangent here, something I do kind of want to note is that it's not just that it's a female protagonist, it's that it's, again, earlier they wanted to do a period thing with Labyrinth, but then they, went to something where it's modern day. So it's not just like a female protagonist, it's an everyday girl. And so I kind of find that interesting. And I think that's part of the charm of the movie is that you watch the movie, and of course it's dated now, but it's meant to be this is just an average, normal girl who kind of gets pulled into this.
Yeah.
So I think the escapism thing, I'm not sure how much of it was deliberately intentional on the part of, Jim Henson and the producers, but just that I think they whether deliberate or accident, they hit on something that is really appealing to, I think, certain people. Just that escapist kind of fantasy that this could happen to me.
Yeah.
That, I'm just going about my day doing laundry, and then I say the right words, and the Goblin King is here to give me all that I desire.
It's kind of enticing, really.
Yeah.
Do my laundry. Uh-oh.
Just Jareth having to fucking stoop over my laundry machine.
Yeah, that'd be pretty great, though. I'd be happy.
I think you'd be happy with the Goblin King, dude. Just,
doing my laundry so I didn't have to do it? Yeah.
You don't want any other, are you sure you don't want, a bigger wish? I could do,
Hey, look, if that is what I had in mind at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how far his magic stretches. Maybe he can only do small.
You saw, but he has, he got the magic balls, he can make...
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that he can, make me a house.
He can make time move forward.
Yeah, but that could be very specific.
He can move the stars.
Specific.
He can... move this star 20 kilometers to the left.
Yes, good. I think another, just still on the theme of what this means to girls, just to talk about that a little more, I think that this movie is particularly remarkable in that not only does it have a female protagonist, the goal at the end is not love.
Yeah.
Which a lot of movies definitely fall into. They have a female protagonist and her ultimate goal is to fall in love. Mm-hmm. In this one, it's not. And in fact, great.
It'd be a bad thing if she fell in love. Mm-hmm. Because it's very, obvious that, it's not true love. It's not, he doesn't care for her. He just wants to win the game.
Yes. And I mean, the thing is I don't feel like stories where love is the goal are a bad thing. It's just nice to have that variety. Yeah. And I think that's what a lot of people would like to see, more variety.
Especially when it's a film with someone who I think Sarah is 15, 16, somewhere around there, which is what Jennifer Connelly was in real life. Mm-hmm. So at that age, you don't want a true love story because it's not realistic.
Well, depends on.
I guess. I mean, I'm not saying that you can't still marry and be with the person you fell in love with at 15.
Oh yeah.
But it's, not likely to happen, and I don't think, in most cases, maybe you wouldn't want it to happen. Depends on maturity level, I guess.
For sure. I feel like maybe a lot of girls at that age wouldn't be ready. Yeah. But, you never know. And I do like that. I would like to see more female protagonists accomplishing things other than relationships. Yeah. Just because we don't often get that variety.
So, something else that the movie, the message that they kind of have too that I like is that, you have this whole movie about growing up and that how you have to grow up and you have to leave childish things behind. But in the end, Sarah still, she turns to Hoggle and them and she's like, well, no, I might need you guys sometimes. Yeah. I still want you there. And if I remember, I do believe they kind of talk about that in the visual history book, is that they don't want to say that, growing up isn't fun and you have to leave all this behind. Yeah. So there's still a place for it.
Yeah, it's just knowing when. Yeah. And, being able to accept the responsibilities and become a full person.
Yeah. I think ultimately it's not so much growing up, but it is, you can't stop yourself from changing. Mm-hmm. You have to accept that just kind of human nature, you're going to, through the years, you're supposed to change. Yes. You're not always supposed to have, have the habits and childishness of a 10-year-old.
Yeah. And that kind of change can be difficult.
Yeah, and it can be sad. I mean, how many times have adults just, reminisced about the days of, like, elementary school where you're thinking, man, I used to sleep all day during the summer, didn't have to worry about getting a job, all this crap about mortgages, and, like...
Yeah.
Here's my dumb thing, and this is partly why... Like, so David Bowie's death actually, like, made me... I didn't cry, but I got pretty sentimental because, like, when I was in university, like, I went through depression, and part of it was just kind of having this desire that I kind of just wished that I could just, like, escape.
Yeah.
And just not deal with all the shit that I was dealing with. And so, part of it, like, I remember thinking about this movie a lot and just thinking about how, wouldn't it be nice just to be able to find the right words and just go, and I'm just transported to the world of the Labyrinth, and I just find, like, a nice, like, I build myself a hut, and I just live there, and I don't have to worry about, like, this university shit. I don't have to worry about what life has in store for me after university.
Yeah.
I could just, like, do nothing.
Yeah.
Like, you don't just, like, just stop and just, like, abandon the adult world.
And also having gone through depression and anxiety, that it is a very seductive concept.
Yeah.
And I mean, the thing about dealing with that kind of stuff is you almost have to fight your way out of that feeling and just find solid ground again where you feel like you're able to take on the stresses again.
Mm-hmm.
But what I think is really important is that you do have that sort of, that place in your heart that you can escape to.
Yeah.
Like, just a little bit of yourself that you can look back on and feel comforted by.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why, I mean, if you look at the movie ending that way, that could be another way.
Yeah.
Like, it's, keep a piece of that and save it for tough times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's dumb, but again, when David Bowie died, I kind of had this moment where I thought back to all the times in university when I thought about how, again, wouldn't it be so nice just to be taken away?
Yeah.
And it was just kind of like, well, that can never happen. It's not like I was like, oh, he's clearly secretly the Goblin King and he actually knows magic, but it was just kind of like this thought that
reality comes crashing down.
It's just like, kind of like, no, stupid.
No.
You can't entertain this notion ever.
This fancy.
Yeah, dumb, yep.
But I think it's important to still return to those thoughts.
Yeah.
Like,
sometimes you just need to think back and, you
need to imagine and dream.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, that's important.
Yeah.
Sometimes real life is overwhelming, and sometimes it's quite frankly quite shitty.
Yeah.
So it's always nice to have pockets of escape. I mean, the danger is not to live in them too closely, which, I mean, again, does kind of harken back to what Sarah was doing, trying to live in a fantasy instead of...
Well, I mean, like, right at the beginning of the movie, Jareth offers her the crystal, and he's like, I can show you your dreams. Do you want it? And he's trying to just, like, do you want this escape?
Yeah.
And she has to fight against it, because she knows, no, I need to get my brother back.
Yeah.
And it's, I think it's good in that she had that kind of outside thing. It wasn't an internal, she had to fight against her internal desires so that she could save her brother.
Yeah. Which I think, it's also quite effective. And yeah, it's like, I feel like the more I think about this movie, the more you can see how really well crafted it was.
Yeah. On that note, I mean, the movie did not do well at the box office. I don't know if I've told you this before, but Jim Henson actually kind of went into a bit of a depression because the movie's reception. His son Brian Henson, who also voiced Hoggle in the movie, remarked that his dad had to, it was like the lowest that he had seen his dad get, and Jim Henson had to kind of go on a bit of a retreat for himself to try and get himself back up again. It's actually, there is a really sad moment early on in the visual history book where Brian Henson is doing, I think it's the foreword or something, and he mentions at the very end that he wishes that his dad were still alive to have seen the fan following that Labyrinth built up over the years. Because, of course, Jim Henson died not too long after.
If only we could be immortal to see how far our reach really, really goes.
Jim Henson is one of those people that it's like, I don't know if you've ever kind of done those, like, what if kind of games, where you're just, like, hypothetically, like, who would you, you know, da-da-da. If, like, I could go back in time and, like, prevent one person's death, I would probably go with Jim Henson.
Jim, go to the doctor.
Yeah, please, like, just go get a checkup on that cold that you have.
Please.
It's, you know, and it's just like, if anything, I would love to see what he would have made.
Yeah.
You know, because Labyrinth, if I remember correctly, it was the last theatrical thing that he did before his death.
Oh.
You know, he went kind of into, you know, started doing more stuff for TV, but I think just the disappointment of Labyrinth at the box office kind of
soured him on the experience.
Yeah, and maybe if he had more time, he would have come back to it.
I feel like Jim Henson was the type of artist who puts a lot of themselves into everything they do.
Absolutely.
And I think in a lot of ways his work was kind of bearing his heart a little bit, and to have such a disappointing reception had to be very difficult for him.
I think so, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, Labyrinth was sort of done as a response to the Dark Crystal, which I forget if it did worse than Labyrinth, but I don't remember. I don't think Dark Crystal did good either.
Mm-hmm.
Labyrinth, they kind of wanted to respond to some criticisms of Dark Crystal, being that they have Sarah and Jareth as humans because they felt like in Dark Crystal they didn't have that human connection, so that, you know, that was one of the criticisms.
I mean, watching Dark Crystal, it does definitely kind of suffer from at least some lack of empathy.
I think it's because, like, the animatronics weren't quite there yet.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, you have a character like Hoggle, and he's a little janky, I mean, I won't lie. Technology has improved, but he has more emotion in his face, and it's easier to read his expressions than someone like Jen or Kira.
Yeah.
Who they have very, like, they're lovely looking puppets, but they're just really stiff.
Yeah, they don't have the range of facial movement.
Like, the puppetry of their bodies is great. I loved watching that. I think Jen in particular, he was puppeteered by Jim Henson himself.
Yeah.
And it's great watching him, like, you kind of see him, like, doing these, like, shoulder movements, and it's very neat to watch, but then you also have Jen monologuing a lot, like, in his head. And obviously they can't, you know, it was hard to puppeteer the mouth shapes.
Yeah.
But it is just kind of,
It doesn't work as well, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, isn't it, and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it that the upper lip area is one of the hardest parts to animate for...
I'm not sure, but I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, it's just, I think just the lip in general, because there's so much deformation when you're talking.
Yeah.
Like, when you kind of, like, sit there and you're making all the mouth shapes.
And I mean, we spend so much time looking at other people's faces, anything that's off, we're gonna notice whether we realize or not.
Yeah.
Like, have you ever looked at something and gone, this feels weird, but I can't, like, Uncanny Valley.
Yeah, exactly.
The Uncanny Valley.
I think that's why, like, a Muppet like Kermit, where he's just like, I mean, all you can do is you could kind of purse his lips a bit.
Yeah, but you don't need to.
Yeah, he's just open and closed. And it's like, he's so kind of graphic in design that's all you need.
Yeah, you don't question it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But when you start getting a character like Jen and Kira and, you know, even Hoggle, you kind of, you notice that stuff a bit more.
Yeah, but I mean, Hoggle looks great, honestly, in my opinion. I mean, yeah, you're right. There are probably places where now we could do it better.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I guess that's one of the things that I would like to see movies do more is combine practical and CG.
Yeah.
Use practical in most cases and enhance with CG like they did in Mad Max.
Mm-hmm.
Fury Road, which I made Shaw watch recently.
Yeah, that's pretty great.
Oh, I love that movie.
Kind of on that note, I guess, we also watched Mirror Mask, which was, so it's another Jim Henson thing. This one is actually kind of titled intended as a spiritual successor to Labyrinth, and I find it really disappointing.
It's Mirror Mask it's a mess. I mean, there are ideas there that could work.
I feel like when you explain the story of Mirror Mask, which is, there's a lot of similarities to Labyrinth.
Mm-hmm.
You have a young girl who she butts head with her mom.
Mm-hmm.
Her mom has an illness, and the girl feels guilt, and she kind of goes into this fantasy world to sort of deal with both the guilt and also her lingering tension towards her mother. Like, that's a great premise.
Yeah, but they make the story so overly complicated and messy.
Yeah.
And they pick up, a very weird visual style that unfortunately, it dates itself almost immediately.
This is what I kind of thought of when you're talking about animatronics, because, of course, Jim Henson, the company, that's their bread and butter, is animatronics puppetry. Mirror Mask is, basically entirely green screened, and everything is CGI'd.
Yeah.
And it's just, you can tell.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like somebody saw the fiery scene in Labyrinth, and they were like, let's do a full movie of that.
Yeah.
And of course, that scene is sort of infamously the most dated part of the movie, to the point that Brian Henson himself in the visual history talks about how he debated if he should redo that scene full of George Lucas, but he was like, no, I decided against
funny.
it. I think part of what Mirror Mask's problem is that a lot of the backgrounds and stuff, they have no value structure.
They don't, and they don't have a focal point.
Yeah.
Everything's kind of going on at once. It's visually confusing.
Yeah, like some of the ideas for visuals, it's oh, that's kind of a neat thing, but I'm having a hard time understanding what I'm seeing because there's just not really no clear focal point. There's all these points of contrast that are drawing and fighting for my attention. Yeah,
it was kind of the era of CG that was, let's just cram as much in as we can possibly do.
Yeah.
And it's not a good thing.
It's sad for me because it's sort of heartbreaking watching this film and knowing that it's a Jim Henson one, and yet there's no puppetry.
Yeah.
And it's just what a, I don't know, I guess...
It's a wasted opportunity, I would say.
It feels like it, and part of me feels kind of bad, because it's I'm sure that this was an experiment to see if they could do a movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just it kind of fell so flat.
It did.
And it's
it's just, I feel like Mirror Mask is a really confusing movie. And I don't, I followed the story, but even then there's elements that don't need to be there. The visuals are confusing and overloaded.
Yeah. I think Labyrinth succeeds in its simplicity.
It does.
And it's, whenever, I think of, movie remakes, and you think about, people have, of course, they've talked about, oh, there should be a sequel to Labyrinth, oh, they should do a remake to Labyrinth. And I think if you're going to remake anything, remake Mirror Mask.
Yeah.
Because again, I think that's the plot is a solid idea.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an interesting one, to see this mother-daughter relationship.
Yeah.
And just make it better.
Yeah.
Even if you were to do it CGI, at least we have better CGI.
Mm-hmm.
So it's still probably going to look CGI, but it'll be a little less jarring.
And still attempt to make a distinct visual style.
Mm-hmm.
It's just...
Yeah, they tried, and I can applaud them for trying.
Mm-hmm. It's just kind of an experiment that didn't work.
Yeah. And I guess at least they experimented.
Yeah. And kudos for that. It's unfortunate it didn't really work out that well.
Yeah. Not all experiments do, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Still, yeah, I think that if they were going to remake anything, I think you're right. Mirror Mask is probably the proper choice. Yeah.
I just don't see how even a sequel, especially, even if we pretend that David Bowie's still alive and he'd be able to do the film.
Mm-hmm.
I think Labyrinth, part of the charm is that it's so delightfully stuck in the 80s.
And
you can't manufacture that.
No, you can't. David Bowie and Jennifer Connelly were so iconic and pivotal to that. It would be hard to recreate that sort of magic.
Yeah.
I feel like even today we don't have that level of sincerity.
Yeah, well, I don't know, like, you see stuff like, because there's that Gem and the Holograms movie, and it's just, again, it's something that's so entrenched in the 80s that it's so kind of wacky and dumb, but it's so charming because they meant it with the utmost sincerity, and you can't fake sincerity in a movie.
No. Or in anything, really.
Yeah. I guess on the note of a sequel to Labyrinth, so in preparation for this, I don't know how many people know of this, but around like 2008 or 9 or so, Tokyo Pop, which was, the big manga distributor in North America here, came out with a licensed sequel to Labyrinth titled Return to Labyrinth.
Yes.
And so in preparation for this little kind of experimental podcast thing, I reread all 4 volumes.
Do tell.
Alright, so for the plot of Return to Labyrinth, so Toby is like 16 years old, and he is kind of a schmuck. He's spent his life, the plot here is that Toby has kind of spent his life wishing for stuff, and he always gets it. But it kind of has unintended consequences. Like, he wishes that he could have a bike like the neighbor kid, and all of a sudden the neighbor kid's bike gets stolen and deposited in Toby's room, so he gets punished for it. He wishes that he was the star of the school play, but, it turns out that I'm actually really shitty at acting, and I ruined the play because I'm so terrible.
Aww.
So, Toby is kind of bemoaning his life, and he kind of complains one too many times, and Jareth appears. Okay, so to frame this, Toby's at school and he gets called down to the principal's office, and the principal is Jareth in a suit.
Oh my god.
And he's got his hair in a ponytail.
Oh my god.
And he's still got that wacky eyebrow makeup.
Oh wow.
And so Jareth basically says to Toby, well, screw you then. I've given you all this shit. Like, I'm done with you. And, and so events transpire, and Toby makes his way to the labyrinth, and I guess Jareth is like, oh, you're here? Okay, well, I guess I take back what I said. You're still my heir.
Oh, alright.
And then Jareth, Jareth makes Toby his heir, and then he's like, I'm done, I retire, peace out.
Oh, wow.
So the manga follows Toby as he has to step into role as the Goblin King, and there's some other stuff to it where, so there's a character named Moppet, and I guess spoilers, if anybody's planning on reading Return to Labyrinth, Moppet is an abulation of Sarah. So there's this wizardess character named Mizumi.
Okay.
And she has this power, like she's an immortal like Jareth, and Jareth goes to her because he's so hung up on Sarah for defeating him that he asks Mizumi to make an ablation of Sarah, so she takes Sarah's hopes and dreams and puts them into a new person.
Okay.
Which is Moppet. Which Jareth then holds Moppet captive for a couple of years, trying to, like, make her love him.
Oh, that's creepy.
It's something like he's, like, also trying to control her because her will is stronger than his.
Okay.
And, like, there's this sort of, like, this thing where Jareth's will controls the labyrinth, and so you need a strong will, and if you don't have a strong will, then the labyrinth won't accept you as its ruler. And so there's this plot point where Toby is Toby going to be strong enough to have the labyrinth?
Oh, he wasn't. Eject.
Everyone dies.
Yeah.
Oh, spoilers, but Toby rules the labyrinth.
What?
Well, he gets the power to.
Okay.
And so Jareth eventually he casts Moppet out because it's like, well, this isn't working. And so Moppet becomes kind of this slave girl that ends up befriending Toby, and then he finds out that he's a part of Sarah, and Sarah in the real world has become kind of uncool. Like, she's an English teacher, and she's the mean English teacher. She gave up on her hopes and dreams, and...
Well, yeah, because someone put them into another person.
Well, it's, so there's like a plot point where Mizumi's like, well, it's not she let me in, I couldn't just do the ablation without her. So basically what happened is that Sarah applied to Juilliard and she didn't get in, and so it kind of trashed her dreams of wanting to be an actress.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah, it's a little sad. There's like this weird kind of romance sort of thing. It's almost like they're trying to do something with, like, similar to Jareth and Sarah, where... So Mizumi is hung up on Jareth.
Okay.
But then, like, Jareth skedaddles, because this ablation thing, he's like, do this for me, and, like, I guess in, like 13 years, like, if this doesn't work out with me and this ablation, then you get the labyrinth.
Okay.
So Jareth fucks off and like ditches Toby. So now Toby has to be a stand-in, and Mizumi's like, oh god damn it, I wanted the hot one. So there's this weird kind of part where like she like goes to like kiss Toby to like seal the deal.
Oh.
And it is like, and I can't help but think like, oh, like is there supposed to be like kind of like again the Sarah Jareth thing, but with like Mizumi and Toby?
Maybe.
I don't know. So that happens, and then so while Jareth is fucking off, he goes and he tracks down Sarah in the real world.
Oh.
And then he goes, because he's abandoned the labyrinth. He's like, whatever.
I'm retired.
Well, yeah, like, that was a good first go. And then he takes Sarah, and he's, like, trying to create a new world for them to rule together.
Okay.
All the while Sarah's kind of like, what's going on? Because, like, her memory is kind of...
Who are you?
Yeah, like,
strangely attractive man.
Oh, yeah, shit. Yeah, Jareth, like, shows up at her house, and he's like, hello, I am a theater man. I just happened to show up at your house. Yeah, and he's got this story that, like, oh, we were in a play together. And Sarah's like, oh, okay, I don't really remember that. And then Jareth is like, can I come in? And she's like, I guess. I'm in my nightie.
Don't do this, kids.
Yeah, I'm in my nightie, and this strange man, like, comes to my door, and it's just like, I guess. And he's still, like, he looks like Jareth. And there's his wacky haircut. And it's like, yes, this man looks like he's on the up and up.
Yes, I'll just let him in late at night.
Yeah, this glam robber. And so, yeah, I don't know, there's just, like, so many kind of weird moments. I guess so the ending is basically, so, like, Moppet and Sarah, like, they kind of, like, rejoin together because, like, they're parts of the same whole, they kind of have to.
Yeah.
Jareth, like, comes back and, like, he accepts that, like, okay, well, I'm gonna rule the labyrinth. So, like, Mizumi is kind of defeated and everybody's all happy and stuff, and I guess Toby learned a lesson. Toby starts to go mad with power at one point.
Okay.
But then he's like, I don't want to be king. And then he kind of gives it up.
So basically nothing happened.
Well, like, a lot of stuff happened, it just kind of turned out to be sort of a hodgepodge.
Status quo resumed.
Yeah, that's kind of it. Yeah, I still
want to read this, though.
Yeah, I'll have to give it to you.
Awesome.
There's I don't know, overall, the sequel manga is very wordy. It gets so wordy.
Oh.
And it's to the point where I was just kind of skimming because there were so many words on the page where it was very much, they set up all these rules and then they have to explain to you the rules, and it just kind of, it's not, we kind of mentioned Labyrinth is so simple. And I feel like they kind of missed that.
Yeah.
This nice, simple story, and then they kind of add in all these details where it's just kind of bogged down, and it sort of makes it hard to understand.
Yeah.
Like, like, I read it, like, literally, like, a day ago, and it's like, I'm still kind of confused about some things.
That's pretty great.
And then, yeah, some of the tone, too, where there's a part where Jareth, like, wakes up, and he's in a really dumb-looking outfit, and he's got a nightcap on. What? It's like, bullshit! Jareth would not wear a nightcap.
That would ruffle his hair.
How dare he flatten that beautiful hair? Yeah.
Speaking of, how's the art?
The art? Oh god. I thought you were like, it was like my art? No. So yes, I will kind of briefly touch on the art, because this is like the big thing that people complain about. So the art in it was, it's not that great. kind of infamously, they hired a really good manga artist to do the cover, and then the inside art is done by an American artist. I believe he's American.
Mm-hmm.
Here, the thing is that yes, the art inside the book isn't great, but the artist who did it, he's actually like a decent artist.
Yeah.
I tried looking up his portfolio because I remember seeing it years ago when he was working on the series,
Mm-hmm.
and it seems to be down, but he did the art for like packaging for the G.I. Joe action figures, so he drew the characters on it.
Mm-hmm.
He was a good artist. The thing is that Tokyo Pop is not a great company.
Mm-hmm.
They basically they bum rushed this one out the door.
Mm-hmm.
So they gave this guy no time to draw it,
Mm-hmm.
and so he was just kind of cranking out these pages. And you can see it too. Every so often there'll be a panel that's drawn really nice.
Mm-hmm.
And and it's just one that just for whatever reason they were able to take more time on, but everything else it was just like just get it out.
Yeah.
And I can't remember, but I think I also recall that he wasn't really super familiar with like the manga style that
Mm-hmm.
Tokyo Pop asked of him.
Mm.
So it was also he's trying to crib an unfamiliar style.
That's tough.
Yeah. So I feel bad for the artist. I know that he's a capable guy that got given a bum deal, so I don't want to crap on it too much. That said, some of the art is a little hilarious. It's just some odd choices, odd staging too. Sometimes the action is a little hard to follow because you're just not really sure. You can't trace the movement between panels.
Mm.
And then there are some funny faces.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, it's a shame because I think it's an interesting interpretation of what a sequel could have been. I like the idea that it frames around Toby. I know some people were kind of mad because they wanted it to be around Sarah, but I sort of feel like there's not really much more of Sarah's story to tell.
She got told.
Yeah, like she got, she did what she had to do and she learned from it.
Mm-hmm.
So I do kind of like the idea of going from from Toby and seeing what he would be up to. You have basically this fresh start for a character that you could interpret however you want.
Mm-hmm.
It was cute to see them build off the idea of him as Jareth's heir, although that said, it kind of seemed like Jareth didn't really give a shit about him.
Yeah.
And that was sort of sad to see, especially when one of the moments that I liked in the original movie was when you saw him kind of bond with Toby a little bit.
Yeah, although, I mean, in some ways, I feel like Jareth liked Toby as an extension of himself.
Yeah,
And I mean, would he like him as much were he his own being and person, just completely separate?
Yeah, that's true. When he's the little baby, he can impress his own identity onto him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Especially when he's like, I think I'll call you Jareth.
Yeah.
Like,
does he bond with Toby as a person or as something to have?
Well, and I mean, as, like, you're a baby, you're not really a person at that point. So it's definitely a thing to have. Yeah. And I think probably, too, maybe part of it, maybe he just wants something to kind of lord over, as like a trophy. Like, I won, haha, I have a baby.
Oh, it's something different from the goblins.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is another thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe once Sarah, maybe if Sarah was defeated, all interest in Toby would have ended.
Yeah, it's tough to say.
Yeah.
How many other babies did you steal, Jareth?
Well, and I've seen, so there's like a theory that people have is, that the junk ladies, because you see there's the main one that Sarah talks to, and then there's others in the background. People think that those are maybe former, other people like Sarah who called upon the Goblin King and then got lost in the labyrinth.
Mm-hmm.
And they turned into junk ladies, and that's kind of, when you see the junk ladies start to pile stuff on Sarah's back, that's what kind of makes people think of that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure. It kind of makes sense, but I'm also, I don't know, Jareth sort of acts surprised that that she's made it that far.
Yeah.
Which sort of suggests to me that maybe no one has ever gotten that far before, but not outside the realm of possibility. Maybe she was just like, it's just been a long time since anyone did.
Yeah, entirely possible.
Mm-hmm. What do you think of the music in Labyrinth?
I like it.
Yeah.
I do. I mean, I don't like every song. I don't like the fiery song.
Yeah.
You know my distaste for that one. I find it discordant. But everything else I like.
Yeah.
I do. Especially Dance Magic.
Yeah,
That's a good one.
I'm pretty partial to Underground myself.
Really?
Yeah, because that was the one where, it's, I don't know, like, I just remember, again, going to, walking to class at university, and I had my iPod in, and I would just, like, listen to that one on loop.
And which part of the movie does that song play?
The very, very beginning.
Okay, yeah, so it's like the opening song. Yeah. Okay. That's what I thought, but I'm not as familiar with everything as you are.
Yeah. And that's kind of the escapist song, because it's like, I want to live underground, daddy, get me out of here, save me, Jareth, from university, because it's hard, and it makes me really, really sad. Oh God.
Why? Mm-hmm. Yeah. But no, it's good. Yeah. I quite like it. I mean, of course, if you get someone like David Bowie, you want that music.
I think, some of the other choices that they were debating for Labyrinth were Michael Jackson, I think Freddie Mercury was there too, which I wouldn't mind visiting that alternate reality where Freddie Mercury...
Yeah, that probably would have been cool.
It would have been fun too, because I imagine he would have done the music as well.
Oh, yeah.
That would have been interesting.
I feel like I'm glad they went with David Bowie. I think he has the right persona, look, the right amount of charm, while not being overly threatening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do wonder if Freddie Mercury would have had the mustache.
Oh, that would have been great.
Oh, my God.
Oh, wow.
See, now you want it too.
I do. I want to see that.
I have my talking Jareth action figure on my desk here, and I'm just kind of like looking at it, just trying to picture it with Freddie Mercury's head on it.
I can't see it as much.
No?
Not as much. I don't know. I feel like David Bowie has that very, like...
He's got...
the high cheekbones, he's got an almost regal look about him.
Yeah, regal and, like, kind of elfish, too.
Yeah, so he plays an otherworldly, character quite well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't think, like, I feel like Freddie Mercury's much more grounded in reality.
I don't know.
No?
All I can picture is the music video for I Want to Break Free, where everybody is in wearing ladies' clothing, and Freddie Mercury didn't shave his mustache for it.
That was pretty great, though.
I love that song.
Oh God, me too.
Hold on. Jareth, what do you have to say about all this?
I've brought you a gift. It's a crystal. Nothing more. But if you turn it this way, look into it. It will show you your dreams. But this is not a gift for an ordinary girl.
Ooh,
well said, Jareth.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
This buddy is like one of my like pride and joy things, because they're not sold anymore. Oh. This is the NECA 12-inch talking Jareth action figure.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, pretty sweet. I have all the other NECA figures as well, and they go for crazy amounts of money on eBay. To the point where I wish, it's one of those things where, like, they tell you, oh, Beanie Babies, buy Beanie Babies, because you could pay your college tuition with Beanie Babies. What they should have told you is, buy a shit ton of Jareth action figures, because you could sell them for like $300 on eBay.
Gosh. Hey, look, what's that?
No.
Sorry, the figure disappeared.
Oh, where'd it go?
I think the Goblin King took it.
Oh, shit. You said the right words.
I did.
Oh, no.
You have to go in the labyrinth now.
Oh, okay.
It was a deal I struck. I'm fine.
Oh, sweet. Where do I go?
It's outside.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I'll be right.
I'll just lock the door.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'll be right back, everyone. Oh, my Labyrinth collection has grown over the last year or so. David Bowie's passing definitely spurred on a lot of nostalgia for this movie. And it's like my love of the movie, as it turns out, it never went away. It just was like deeply
dormant.
Buried. Yeah. And then it just erupted.
Like a thing.
Yeah, I'm admiring all my goodies.
It's true. There's a collection for sure.
Yeah. I've got the Marvel comic book from the 1986, I've got the storybook from 1986.
Damn.
The novelization, the manga, the figures, the Goblins of Labyrinth art book from Brian Froud.
Oh, I love Brian Froud.
Yeah.
It's funny because I actually, when I first learned about Brian Froud, it wasn't in conjunction with any movie.
Yeah.
I actually knew him as an artist first, just from coincidence. I believe he used to have fairy.net.
Yeah, he might still do.
I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that, especially if you go there and it turns out it's a porn site now. Not my fault.
Yeah, it's like Sexy Ladies with Wings or something.
Oh, God. But no, and I just remember going and I admired that art so much and I had no idea he worked on movies.
See, and it's funny because, I had an aunt who, she was kind of into going to psychics and tarot cards and stuff. And so one year for my birthday, she got me this book about, it's like just different fairies. Mm-hmm. And this was kind of in that period where I had kind of forgotten about Labyrinth aside from that one memory of it, and before I rediscovered it in high school. So, I rediscovered Labyrinth, and I'm kind of getting into the art, trying to track down Brian Froud's book, and I realized that, oh shit, I've had this Brian Froud book all along, because it turns out he did the art for the fairy book that I had.
Yeah. That's actually one I'd like to pick up as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, fantastic art.
Mm-hmm.
He actually recently had some work in Strange Magic.
Oh yes, Strange Magic is a CGI George Lucas film.
Oh god.
And
it's surprisingly charming and yet also terrible.
Yeah, I love it. It's really dumb.
It's the weirdest mix because I enjoy it so thoroughly, but it's really dumb.
It's I would encourage I mean it's on Canadian Netflix. I don't know if it's on regular Netflix as well. You guys have everything, you Americans, so presumably you have it on there. If you want to waste an hour and a half,
check it out.
I would just do it. Just like put it on the background when you're doing something else and just like kind of see.
The main villain's mother in particular, you can see is pretty much Brian Froud all over.
Yeah, and it's funny because I was like watching some special feature stuff and I saw somebody drawing and I was like, that kind of looks like a Brian Froud drawing. And then the camera pans up and I see that mustache of his and I was like, this it's him!
Freddie Mercury!
Yes, exactly! He's been hiding all these years.
As Brian Froud.
Yes! No, he's just turns out he's also an artist.
Oh, wow.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah, but no, for real, it was Brian Froud.
The Bog King, I won't lie, I kind of love the Bog King because he kind of reminds me of Jareth.
He does a little.
Just that kind of like, I'm a dick, but I'm also kind of cool.
Look at me, I'm so charming.
Yeah, yes. Yeah. No, so I have an accent.
Oh, it helps that he's voiced by Alan Cumming.
Yes.
Yeah.
His delightful movie.
Oh, check it out. Mm-hmm. And check out Labyrinth while you're at it.
Yeah!
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's it for this one, guys. Let us know what you think of this one, because we're already kind of interested in doing this for some of our future LPs, and also maybe we just do it for something because.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, thanks for joining in for this one. We look forward to having you guys stick around for our next LP and perhaps our next podcast.
That would be awesome.
See you guys then.
Thanks all.
Woo! Jareth, do you have anything to say?
Do you want it?
Oh, okay. I
don't know what you said there, Jareth. You're gonna have to speak up a
Jareth, this is a little awkward. Like, people on the internet are gonna hear this.
Don't define it.
Okay. We gotta go, guys.
Yeah,
okay.
A little situation to take care of.
Bye.